Hello there, I'm Brad from 4playernetwork.com. These are my top 10 favorite games of 2015, so hold on to your butts. Just barely making my top 10 list in a very tough year. I had to make a lot of really tough cuts. But Metal Gear Solid 5, it made the list. And truth be told, any other year a Metal Gear game may have topped my list because it really is one of my favorite franchises. But this game, in too many ways, it didn't remind me of what I loved about Metal Gear. And I know a lot of people will blame the story and they'll say, this story is just dumb and it's crazy. But truth is, Metal Gear games all kind of have dumb stories. But what they also have is a crazy cast of personalities to back it up, to play into that zaniness, and crazy boss fights that are memorable in ways that I don't think any of the boss fights in this game are memorable. But what this game did have, what it had that maybe even the other Metal Gear games didn't, is it gave the player a character that was fun to control, to move around the world, to actually play like the stealth game you've always dreamed of in your head in those other games before you completely fumbled the ball because you were fumbling with the controls. But here, sprinting, diving, rolling, peeking out of cover, getting those headshots effortlessly are the things you were never able to do in other Metal Gear games. Now you can. This really does feel like the ultimate stealth simulator just because of how much control you have over your player. And it still has all the fun, crazy gadgets and weapons that you had in those other Metal Gear games. It just didn't have those other things that we fell in love with. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating because I look at this game and I'm thinking, if they just made it like those other ones, instead of this over-ambitious open-world thing with this crazy metagame that they tried to do in Peace Walker, and it kind of worked there, and it only kind of works here, if they just made the kind of Metal Gear game that we all know and love, we would have been talking about maybe the best Metal Gear game. But the truth is, the open-world stuff doesn't quite work, because even though there's some good level design on a micro level, knowing how all that stuff is connected together in our heads is what makes for a very memorable world, a very memorable space, you know? Maybe the hangar in the original Metal Gear Solid wasn't that memorable, but because you have in your head so solidified, like all the different rooms around it and all the different things you find in those rooms, it just becomes part of that experience that is so important to Metal Gear Solid, and that's not here. It just feels like a jumble of places that you drop into and fly out of via load screens, and it was just so close. I don't want to fault Kojima for being too ambitious, but and I always admire trying new things, but this game could have been so much better. It's frustrating, but also amazing at the same time. I don't know what else to say. It makes my list. It's also still kind of disappointing. Next up on my list is a game that I probably wouldn't expect to see on a lot of other people's top 10 lists. Not just because it came out very close to the end of the year, and because it's filled with a lot of weird fan service, but not in like the super creepy, like Shinron Kagura kind of way, just sort of the slight misguided Japanese game style, maybe a little anime cliche. But ultimately, it's because this is a comfort food game for me. Strategy RPGs have always been one of my favorite genres, and this is a very traditional Japanese strategy RPG in the Final Fantasy Tactics Fire Emblem vein. And it's just nice to see another one of these types of games. I feel like a lot of the smaller Japanese developers who've made this type of game, typically for handhelds in the past decade, don't exist anymore. They all shut down, or they moved on to like making crappy mobile games. And even the developer of this game doesn't exist anymore. This was their last game from Image Epoch. But this is a surprisingly competent, no, it's more than competent. This is a good strategy RPG, and it really caught me by surprise. It's not as deep as like a Final Fantasy Tactics. It doesn't have that level of customization, but it does. You do have more control over, how your party members are equipped and laid out in terms of equipment and modifications to equipment via this orb system. It's not super deep, but it's good enough to where you feel like you're making a certain type of build for your character. I'd say I place this game more on the level of something like a Jeanne d'Arc, or even more like an old school Shining Force game where you didn't have a ton of customization. But why I like this game so much is because it has a surprisingly competent level of presentation. The characters look cool when they're doing attack animations in battle, and there's actually voice acting in this game, which is something you don't see in this genre very often. Even Fire Emblem, a first-party, successful strategy RPG franchise from Nintendo, still doesn't have voice acting and cutscenes, but it's not just existent in Stellar Glow. It's good. Some of the characters are pretty well voice acted, and I know some of them might be anime cliches, but hey, I don't watch a lot of anime anymore, so fuck you. It doesn't bother me. Truth is, some of the characters just kind of grew on me, and every single one of these characters, both because of their story personality and because of their weapon loadout in terms of gameplay, I wanted to use everybody in battle, and it was always a tough choice when I couldn't bring certain characters in, which I think is a kind of rarity in this genre of game. And it's even harder because you spend a lot of time with these characters outside of battle. There's this very Persona style social link system where you have to hang out with certain characters, but you only have so many turns to do so outside of battle, so you have to make tough choices, do I want to hang out with this character, or do I want to go work a job to earn some extra money? But by building these relationships with these characters, they actually get better in battle. They learn skills. I maxed out a relationship with a very slow tank type, and he got a final passive upgrade that let him move 2 more spaces in battle, and that dramatically changed his usefulness. So I not only really got to know him in a social sense, but now he's one of my best characters in battle. That's just a really kind of satisfying synergy that I don't even think Persona pulls off all that well. Stellar Glow is a big surprise for me. And if you like this type of game, if you like Final Fantasy Tactics, if you like Fire Emblem, I highly recommend picking this up. It's easy to get into, and I feel like it's pretty easy to fall in love with as well. Next, we have a game that didn't get a lot of love from critics this year. It's probably my lowest rated game, on Metacritic, of all the games on my top 10 list, and I really, really kind of don't understand that. Codename Steam is one of the most impressive tactics games I've played in a very long time. Now, I understand the complaints about enemy turn length. I don't agree with them. I understand them. Even when they implemented the fast forward on the patch, I still never used it, because in Codename Steam, you kind of need to understand what's going on in the battlefield. You need to position your characters in such a place where you can see enemy movements throughout the enemy turn. It's just part of the game. I don't understand complaints about it. What I do understand is that this has some of the best level design I've ever seen in a tactics game, period. It's straight up ambitious. The level of secrets and verticality and just complex objectives that you see in every single one of these map designs in this game. And the fact that it's on a handheld is even more shocking, on a 3DS even. It's just, this game has level design that would be impressive even on a console or a PC. Just, the whole genre is just filled with, flat maps, filled with, just squares or hexes, and not a lot of personality is put into the space that you navigate to execute on your tactics, and this game really put a premium on making that stuff really good. The other thing I really like about Codename Steam is all these different characters, and I know they seem stupid because you're playing all these random characters from literary history, but in gameplay terms, in terms of their weapons and their unique abilities, each character is so different. And bringing in different characters and different arrangements of characters into battle can dramatically change the way a battle plays out. And it's always fun to try new combinations just because everybody is so different, because they have abilities that work really well together. it's frustrating because I know this game wasn't successful, but I feel like Codename Steam, like Intelligent Systems, the creators of Fire Emblem and Advance Wars, has made something pretty amazing here. And if we can't see this IP, this specific IP go forward, I hope they take this gameplay, these mechanics, this map design, and just maybe slap another IP on this. Maybe just make this an Advance Wars games and go from there, because I feel like too many people didn't give this a chance. You know, they listened to reviews, even though all that stuff, a lot of the problems were patched out a week later. Just give Codename Steam a chance. If you like games like Valkyria Chronicles, like XCOM, like this might scratch that itch. It's also quite challenging in a really satisfying kind of way, in a way that not a lot of other, Nintendo games are these days. I really, really liked Codename Steam, and I hope more people give it a chance. Let me consult my paper here. Yep, next we have Grow Home. And let me let you into a little secret. I'm not saying numbers on the beginning of some of these because I have not even, put some of these in order before I started talking about them. That's how crazy this year is. I love all these games and it's hard to put these into order. But you know what? I've finally decided on whatever number is next to this one. That's how much I love Grow Home. Or as you might want to call it, the real Crackdown 3, since actual Crackdown 3 is not coming out anytime soon. If you loved getting agility orbs in Crackdown, which we all did, this is the fucking game for you, because it has this amazing draw distance, and you're climbing this beanstalk, and you see these crystals everywhere, and you get one crystal, and you look off, and you see 3 more, and you just can't stop. This is a short game, but it's a short game because you play it so, fucking fast, because you can't stop. You're just climbing this beanstalk and making this beanstalk grow up into space to get to your ship, and along the way you're getting these crystals, and these crystals feed into your character and let you, jetpack more and glide more, just like in Crackdown. It feeds into just letting you get more crystals quicker. And I know it's a little strange. Because in the video footage that I recorded, I had already gotten most of the crystals in this game, so you're not seeing a lot of crystals now. But I'm telling you, if you pick up this game, there will be an infinite amount of crystals for you to get, and it's just so fun. It's so satisfying. The way you move this character, kind of like an arm at a time, and the way you can climb up things and bounce off things. There's this strange sense of discovery where you see things, whether it be a little creature or a plant or a leaf or a flower, and you're like, what is this? And you grab onto it because that's what you do. You're a grabby little robot who likes grabbing onto shit. And then you realize, oh my god, this flower is like a parachute, and now I can fly up into the air and not be as scared of falling down to the earth. Just this sense of just organic discovery in this game is really satisfying. And then you get up into space and there's asteroids and fucking Grow Home. More people have to play Grow Home. It doesn't take long. It's not very expensive. But as far as game feels, as far as addictiveness, it is really, really one of the best games of 2015. I absolutely love it. It made something besides my beanstalk grow. We're just going to end it there. Hold on. Stop. Don't move your mouse. I know you're going to close this page because I'm talking about Her Story and you don't think it's a game, but listen to me for a second. It's a game. When I go to Metacritic and I type in Her Story, it doesn't show up under films, it shows up under games. So fuck you, I win. Now listen. Here's why I love Her Story. I don't like stories in games that often. I really don't. I read a lot of books, I watch a lot of movies. I get really into stories in those mediums, but in video games I usually care more about gameplay. I care more about numbers and leveling up my dudes so those numbers can be higher. And it's rare that I find a story that I really connect with. And it's the stories that are actually trying something new. It's the stories that really can only be done in a video game. And I know Her Story is just watching a bunch of interview videos, but it's simulating that detective game that we always wanted. This is the best Batman game ever because you actually feel like a detective. There is a mystery here that you're trying to solve, and it's only through your own fucking brain and note-taking. And I wrote down a lot of notes for this game that you will figure out this mystery. And that's what makes it so satisfying. I played this with Malia. We were both taking notes and typing things into the search engine, uncovering the story in a way that I've never uncovered a story before. And that's what makes it impressive. It doesn't, it helps that I feel like the acting is really good and the story has some legitimately like cool twists and mystery hooks to it. But the game really did make me think about story in video games. It made me think about, ways it can be done. Very similar to how Gone Home did for me a couple of years ago. And I really, really wish that developers out there would look at something like this and realize that if you give the player more agency in the way they obtain the story, how much more impactful it can be. And I feel like the ending of this game is just really caps it off. It's one of the more controversial aspects of this game, but given what you've learned about the story, what you've learned about the character you're playing as, it ends the only way it could have. It ends in the most realistic way a story like this does, and I absolutely loved it. I loved her story. It's absolutely one of my favorite games I played this year. If it's a game. It's a game. I think it's a game. Whatever.
That was a gift from his boss, Eric.
Oh, Satellite Rain. That game that Brad talked about way too much this year that I don't care about because other people didn't tell me I should like it, and Brad just prattling on about he's playing one of those games with the little people that he loves that I can't see when I watch the feed. Man, fuck you all. Satellite Rain is so cool. God damn it. It's oh god, it's this open world. It's like an old school Metal Gear game, like Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid, like an isometric game where you're breaking into these bases and you're sneaking around and you're avoiding cameras or taking out cameras and stealthily taking out guards, but it's in an open world setting where you can kind of choose the order of how you want to take a mission. I'm short on money, so I'm gonna rob this bank, or I'm gonna break into this base because I can get some badass augment, like Deus Ex style, and it's open and free form and oh God, I fucking love Satellite Rain. What are we talking about? Satellite Rain? Is this what we're talking about? Is this my recording? Okay, let me tell you more reasons I love Satellite Rain. It's got really, really satisfying skill progression. You like a Deus Ex game? Well, this game is like playing a Deus Ex game, except you got four dudes that are all different, and they can get all kinds of crazy augments and gear and weapons and skills that work with those weapons and those augments, and it's just so satisfying to level up, to get new gear for your characters in this game, because you start out and you're fumbling around because it plays like an RTS, and hey, I'm terrible at RTSs, so I kind of sucked at playing this game early on. But that arc of progression, you feel like you get so powerful, and while before you were just kind of shooting your pea shooter, desperately trying not to get caught, because if you got caught in a combat encounter that you were instantly dead. But later on in the game, you have grenades that create bubbles of silence that you can chunk more explodey grenades into, and nobody can hear it, and you just feel so fucking powerful. Oh my god. Okay, truth is, Satellite Rain, it has some problems. The mission design, the mission objectives, I should say, get a little repetitive. They do get a little repetitive after a while, but because the base design, the level design of each of these corporations and bases and banks and stuff that you're breaking into are just so meticulously designed based around your abilities and your augments, like being able to climb up vents and jump up vents and is like a game changer in certain locations, and it makes you want to get that augment because it can make breaking into this place so much easier. Or you can get something else. You could just research a rocket launcher and just go in guns a-blazing. The game just gives you the freedom to do that, but god damn it, I love Satellite Rain. And I know I'm just prattling on, and I know I'm never going to convince y'all to play Satellite Rain, but fucking Satellite Rain, it's so goddamn good. Satellite Rain. Satellite Rain. A Telltale Game. A Telltale Game is one of my favorite games of this year, which is a little surprising to me because in 2015 I thought I would be really tired of the Telltale formula, and maybe in terms of gameplay I am a little, but Tales from the Borderlands really surprised me. You know, I almost didn't play this game, and if it wasn't for Crispy really going on and on about how much he loved this thing, I wouldn't have given it a chance, but I'm so glad I did. I don't care about Borderlands. I mean, I finished that first one, it was alright. That second one was kind of dumb and boring, and I stopped playing it, but damn it, these characters are really good, and I feel like this setting it's futuristic-y, and it's like Firefly, goddammit, and that's why it's cool, and the characters that Telltale created here are just so fun, and they interact in such, like, this game it's funny, damn it. It's funny. A lot of games try to be funny, and that doesn't work so well. This game tries to be funny, and it is funny. It has clever references. The chemistry between the characters really good, but it's not an annoying kind of, you know, funny like the actual Borderlands games could be. It's endearing. These characters are. You want them to be your friends, god damn it, because they're just they have so much heart, and I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, this game is all story, it's all characters, it's all writing, and it's exceptional here. It really is. And if it had something else besides, you know, the usual Telltale gameplay trappings of walking around and talking to things, maybe it would be my favorite game of the year. I would like to see Telltale in the future really kind of step out the way Double Fine did and try to make an actual, you know, gamey video game, but still have the quality, you know, writing and characters and personality that the rest of their games have, because I think they could make something really special. And you know what? They did it here with Tales from the Borderlands. Ho, ho. The Witcher 3, probably my most talked about game in podcast history, my most talked about series in podcast history, because for the past several years I've been playing through these games, I've been reading the books, all kind of leading up to my excitement for The Witcher 3 in some sense. I had lofty expectations for this thing. In some respects, it really met them in ways I couldn't even imagine. The story, the writing, the characters, the attention to detail that CD Projekt Red puts into every little side quest is it is unmatched. It is unmatched in ways that like I can't even comprehend. You know, coming off of a big RPG like Dragon Age Inquisition, where a side quest is like you know, picking up a plant and then forgetting about it and then talking to a person later who said they wanted that plant, and then they're like, thanks, and you're like, what? Like this game has side quests that put other games' stories to shame. It's remarkable, and the game is so fucking beautiful. And most importantly, the reason I love The Witcher 3 is because after reading the Witcher books, these books that you know were written back in the 90s or whatever, that the video games are based on, they're good, and they followed a storyline with these characters that weren't addressed in the first two Witcher games, which was super disappointing. But like these characters are in this game, and like they're done justice. Like characters like Yennefer and Ciri are just as interesting and complex and awesome as they were in the books. And the story wraps up in a ways that man, I always wanted the books to. But I feel like they never really got a chance. You know, I wanted to spend more time with some of these characters, and this game let me do that, and it's so satisfying in ways that like all those Dragon Age books I read, which like weren't even like addressed in the games, was so frustrating. Here, it's incredible. But this is not my favorite game of the year. It's not my favorite game of the year because in a gameplay sense, I feel like it has some of the same problems that CD Projekt Red has with, you know, all the Witcher games. I think the combat is fine. I think the combat is better here than it was in the last two games, but like the skill system that feeds into that combat system, the loot system that feeds into that, like there's not a lot of like carrot here. I don't constantly want this next skill or this next piece of armor because I don't think that stuff is particularly well designed, you know? Like, it's kind of cool at first. Like, that first time you get the upgraded Igni, you know, in the first, 5 hours of the game or something. And then, 100 hours later, you're still doing the same shit in combat. It gets boring and tedious, and that's really frustrating. I feel like if CD Projekt Red can nail some of these gameplay aspects, they could have made, like, The Witcher 3 one of the finest games ever made. And I know some people believe that. I know some people do think it's one of the best RPGs ever, but I need that stuff. I need that stuff to be crunchy. I need to really want to get that next skill. In this game, it doesn't succeed at that in a way that another game, Satellite Rain, on my list does. But I'm gonna forgive that. I'm gonna be disappointed in the gameplay, but that's okay. It is still one of my favorite games of the year. Because, man, they know how to tell a story. And that's why I'm excited for Cyberpunk. I just really hope that some of the few complaints I got out there's not a lot of complaints for Witcher 3. I hope CD Projekt Red listens to those complaints and really kind of figures out how to make a good skill system, how to make a good loot system, how to make a really exceptional combat system, so they can actually finally make that greatest game ever that they've been trying to so hard that they honestly kind of deserve.
Disrupting the ritual. This is black magic. These folk disturb the dead. We cannot.
My second favorite game of 2015 is a game I started playing on December 31st, but because I slacked off and I put off my recording, I was able to play it for the past couple of weeks, and god damn it, Invisible Ink is incredible. It's from Clay. You might know Clay as the guys that made Don't Starve, that made Mark of the Ninja. And like those games, I feel like this game does a really good job of conveying gameplay through a really unique art style that not just looks stylish, but conveys a lot of necessary information to the player. And there's a lot going on in Invisible Ink. It is a stealth tactics game where you're moving 4 characters around these corporations trying to steal secrets or information or money or equipment. It's actually a lot like Satellite Rain, just in a turn-based sense, now that I think about it, but it's just so good here. There's an endless amount of depth to the tactics in this game, and at any given time, you have so many decisions that involve, your movement and whether you're going to hide or use one of your cool gadgets that you obtained in the last mission, and are you going to rob this safe and spend this money on a new hacking program that lets you kind of take over control of maybe a turret in a stage, or instead are you going to use that money to buy a new weapon that will let you take out a dude quicker, but at the same time that might make it harder for you in the long run. It's a game filled with tough decisions that are always satisfying, and when the shit hits the fan, when shit goes real bad, it always feels like there's a way out. It's like a puzzle game where you're just like, I'm in a shitty situation, I just need to find the solution here, and you feel like there's always a solution, even when things are really, really getting bad. And the pressure that's on the player in this game is constant, because no matter what, you can't play this game like XCOM where you inch your characters forward in Overwatch and inch forward in Overwatch. You're constantly fighting against the clock, because the longer you spend in one of these on one of these missions, the more they're going to throw at you, and you got to be prepared for that. You got to know when it's worth it to wait and when it's worth it to take a risk, and you will have to take risks. And taking these risks and screwing up and unscrewing up is what makes Invisible Ink so fucking great. I really didn't think that this game would hook me, because it has that dreaded word roguelike, and I don't play a lot of roguelikes, but in reality, it just means that every time you play this game, which is relatively short form, you could probably play through it in about 5-10 hours. But next time you play, you will have unlocked new programs and new agents, and bringing in different arrangements of programs and agents and stuff into your next playthrough can dramatically change the way this game plays and feels, and it's always fun. This game really caught me off guard. I did not expect to like it as much as I did, and I'm so glad I finally gave this a chance. I really think that Clay is one of the best developers around right now that we should always be keeping an eye on, and anytime they announce a new project. My favorite game of 2015, it's Xenoblade Chronicles X, and the truth is, it could have been any one of these games on my top 10 list, because that's the kind of year it's been, but I had to decide on an experience that resonated with me the most, and god damn it, I didn't expect it to be Xenoblade Chronicles X, because I didn't really like Xenoblade Chronicles. In fact, I think it's one of the most overrated games of the past decade, but something about Xenoblade Chronicles X connected with me. One, it's got giant robots. It's got giant robots that can transform into cars. It's got giant robots that can fly in the air in this world. It's one of the biggest open worlds I've ever seen, and it's seamless. You could just fly out of the city and fly to like different continents, and it's crazy. It's like an old school Final Fantasy back in the day when you get your airship. When you get a flying mech in this game, it opens up this world that just felt so huge before. Filled with so many dangers, enemies that early on in the game you were just sneaking by. Now they're like little ants below you that you never have to worry about again until you see a flying level 99 monster that's way up in the air and you're like, oh my god, this is the best game ever. And where other games like The Witcher 3 kind of failed for me, Xenoblade Chronicles X succeeds like with flying colors, and that's all the systems that feed into what I consider relatively mediocre combat. But what is so good is the class system, the arts that those classes have, the skills that those classes have, the loot system that feeds into your class system, and you really feel like you can make these ultimate builds, and then you master out like a class tree, and you could start using those weapons and those abilities with other classes, and it just feels like this endless amounts of customization, which is the kind of thing that made me fall in love with games like Final Fantasy Tactics. It's carrots, man. It's got all the carrots, and it keeps me going because I want to see all these different classes, and I feel like I could play it forever. And when you're roaming this world and you're seeing these monsters that feel so insurmountable, that will kill you in one hit. It's just shocking to think that one day you're going to get there and you're going to be able to fight those things, and that progression, that level of progression that can only be achieved by working at and figuring out this really tough skill system, this loot system. It's remarkable. This is why I play RPGs, and I feel like this game does it so well. Just the world is so well designed. All these systems are so well designed. And you know what? God damn it. Some people hate the story. I actually like it. I spent most of my time playing story missions, playing affinity missions. All that stuff is voice acted. All that stuff, I think, really lets the characters kind of grow on you. And the truth is, this game has fucking style. The monster designs look so cool in this game. Just the geometry of the world, like the landscapes and the interesting shapes of the terrain just are so cool. There's like floating islands and stuff, and the music, man. The music in this game is so cool. And I know, before you give me some shit about it, because I know there's some weird themes when you're in New LA, which, hey, New LA, it's called New LA. That's kind of crazy. But when you're out in the world, and each continent has its own theme, and it has a remix on that theme at night, that stuff is so good. And just everything gels so well, and you're running around this big space, and you're hopping your mech, and you're flying around, and the fucking music's blasting on the radio, or wherever the hell music's coming from. Maybe it's coming from the mech, I don't know. But man, Xenoblade Chronicles X, it was a complete package for me. It's probably the most addictive game I played this year, and just ultimately, yes, my favorite experience, my favorite video game of 2015. Now I just need to finish it. And that's it. That's my top 10 favorite games of 2015. And right now you're probably thinking, wait, where's Bloodborne? Where's Ori and the Blind Forest? Where's Until Dawn? And you know what? It was tough. It was tough. I had to make some cuts. Please don't be mad. Please go to 4playernetwork.com. I love you. Good night.